What up, guys and ghouls, and welcome to another episode of Fright Mike. I'm Liz.
I'm Sam.
And today we are continuing our month-long found footage part 1.
Part 1!
Part 1 because we just can't decide on 1 month, just 1 month worth of found footage movies.
There's too many good found footage movies.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
How do
this
you
is
pick?
part 1.
Part 1.
And this is gonna be, I feel like this might be a controversial episode because we couldn't do a found footage month without giving a shout out to one of the OGs, the Blair Witch Project.
From 1999.
From 1999. Now I say controversial because this movie is like a love it or hate it kind of affair, I feel like.
It is.
Because there are a lot. And here's why. Because I feel like a lot of people don't like this movie because, for reasons, we'll get into it. But then there's other people who stan this movie.
And I don't know why. So we'll leave it at that for now. This movie...
It's so 90s.
It is very 90s.
It's so it is the tail end of the 90s is when it came out. But, it's so weird because I remember this movie coming out. I didn't see it right away. How old was I in 99?
I was 9.
Yeah. So, yeah, 8, 9. Yeah. So I didn't see it. I was too young to see it. I think it was rated R, right? Yeah.
I think so. They swear a lot.
But I remember when it came out and everyone thought it was real.
Yeah.
Because it was no one had heard of the actors. They weren't even really actors. They were people with a camcorder.
Well, I think they were going for, because everybody credits, a lot, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people credit this movie to be the first found footage movie, forgetting that Cannibal Holocaust, I believe, is the first found footage style movie, with a similar situation. So the director didn't pick named actors to be in it. He had them hide from public view for months after the movie came out to lend to the lore that this was an actual found footage thing. So when Blair Witch came out in 99, it was a very similar situation. There were no big named actors. They were paid to lay low. So it would lead to the lore of the Blair Witch Project being an actual found footage about college students gone missing. And I was 9, so I have a memory of the movie coming out, but I don't remember it particularly being scary to me then.
Yeah. And
so.
Yeah, and I feel I guess it was smart marketing though, because it's what they did with Cannibal Holocaust did it too, not intentionally, they didn't do it where people thought it was so real that, they were they threw the director in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And demanded that he, present the actors that were in the movie because people were oh my god, this is, a real thing that happened and they actually did die, and, the actors had to show up in court and be no, we're very much alive.
Exactly. Nope. Hi, me from before.
Yeah. Or, with, Paranormal Activity when it came out, they're the whole, you have to see this movie before anybody else, da da da.
Yeah.
So, I guess it just fed into that, that kind of hype of this movie is real, could be real, looks real, and so some people believed it was real.
Right.
And that they were actually watching this movie about these people who disappeared.
I just remember distinctively everybody making a big deal out of this movie in the theater. They were because found footage wasn't a thing back then. So with, the handheld camera and the shakiness of everything and, not being able to see things, I remember a lot of people were, throwing up.
Yeah.
In the theater, or, that said they caused them headaches because of the way that the camera was constantly moving and shaking. So that's really the only thing I remember.
It was so amateur.
Exactly. So, to start this film off, we get scrolly text. Well, not even scrolly text. It's still text. It says, in October 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland. A year later, their footage was found.
Ooh.
And then it sets you up for the most boring movie I've ever seen. I'm sorry, I'll wait till after.
I was gonna say, tell us how you really feel. Right off the bat.
I can't hold it in.
Well, so it's a simple film. There's only like 3 real characters. 4 if we're counting the witch.
Yes. Hex gonna give it to you. Sorry, I'll go home.
I'll see myself out.
Sam has left the chat.
Our girl Heather, she's our filmmaker. Our amateur filmmaker who's setting out to make this documentary about the Blair Witch. And basically she has her camera guy, Josh, and her sound guy, Mike. So this is some intense filmmaking.
Yes.
For a sound guy to be involved.
This is very, very art school. I hate Heather so much.
I don't think a whole lot of people like Heather.
Oh my god.
The people in this movie don't even like Heather.
No, that's true. So they like shoot around the town. They shoot the opening. They give facts about Burkittsville, formerly known as Blair, which is how the Blair Witch got her name. Her name is not actually Blair. They talk about a high mortality rate of children, but nobody seems to recall anything weird from that time. It's just a weird phenomenon. Yeah.
Phenomena.
I must mention, this is so off topic, but Benny Drama from Instagram, he did a Blair Witch style video where he imitated James Charles, and I wish that this was this movie.
I was gonna wait till we got to the part, but like that scene has been spoofed so many times in Hollywood, especially after right after this movie came out.
Yes, scary movie. Hello.
Yes, we knew her.
Yes.
Just a little bit of background. The Blair Witch is allegedly
We don't want to get sued.
the ghost of a woman named Ellie Kedward. Kedward? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even write it down.
She's from the 1700s, but she basically was accused of witchcraft because she would lure kids into her house and draw their blood.
Sounds like me.
Like a normal life.
Yeah, you know.
So she was guilty of witchcraft and banished to the woods where she kind of wandered off, and it was during a particularly harsh winter, so everyone presumed that she was dead. That's the background. That's the tea.
You know what they say about presumptions? They make an ass.
They're wrong.
I also recall there was an old man that they interviewed too, and he was talking about in the winter of 1940, some young kids started disappearing, and he says that some old man came down and said, "I'm finally finished," and then they found 7 kids' bodies in his house.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's 2 witches afoot.
Also, there was that whole thing about how any of those kids that accused Ellie of, doing the whole blood drawn thing, they just vanished. And that's when half of the town's child population vanished as well.
It's always those damn children that go disappearing.
It's always witches and kids.
I know.
Hansel and Gretel.
The Witch? The Simpsons?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, but before they kind of head off on their journey, they do stop and do an interview with Mary Brown, who's this crazy ass old lady.
She's what I look like after Thursdays at work. The busiest day.
After a week-long work week.
Yes. I'm just in the corner ranting to myself like a deranged loon. My hair's all out of sorts. My eyes are gone lazy. My eyes are gone lazy. What the fuck am I talking about?
Covered in Cheeto dust.
Exactly.
But she's claiming to have seen the Blair Witch. She claims that she was half human and half beast. A certified crazy in Heather's eyes. But they end up going to this place called Coffin Rock to investigate the massacre that happens. But they go through the woods, and that's how they end up in the woods.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, so right off the bat...
Is this when they talk about... Wait. Did they interview these 2 guys, right? Did this already happen?
Yes. That happened after. They were like fishing in the hole in the hole. They were like fishing but like that's the thing is that these like townspeople are so like iffy about talking about these things.
Yeah.
Like some of them believe it, but some of them are like, eh. But it's funny because the second that they mention that they're going to the woods, they're like, okay, kids, like
it was nice knowing you.
Yeah, like they're just like, okay, well, you'll learn.
Yeah. Oh, you'll learn.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's like that night, yeah, after they talk about the shit at Coffin Rock, they set up camp and it's like pouring rain. And in the morning, Heather speaks to Josh about him hearing, like, so Heather's got the camera, I'm pretty sure, and she's telling Josh, like, asking him about, like, hearing noises in the night, but they laugh it off, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard cackling, too. So everything is still pretty lighthearted at this point.
Mm-hmm. And so before they, like, set off, Heather does have a map, which they show the map a couple of times, and it looks like the most confusing thing I've ever seen because it looks like there's no words on it.
I think it's like one of those.
It's like scribbles.
Yeah, it's like one of those like topographical maps.
I was gonna say like yeah, like one of those where it's like mountains.
Right. And like I sucked at reading those in junior high, and I'm certainly gonna suck at reading them now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. She thinks she's goddamn Christopher Columbus navigating this shit.
Yeah. So she's like constantly consulting this map to look for this old graveyard, which you can tell like those kinds of people who are like she's definitely lost and confused, but is never going to admit that.
Yeah, she's an asshole. She's an asshole.
There's a bit of confusion, and right off the bat, our boy Mike, they're all kind of fighting about like being lost because you know like the guys are like, okay, well, are you sure you know where we're going? And she's like, yes. She's like sounding so confident about where they're going, and they're like, are you sure though? And she's like, yeah, definitely, we're going this way. It's just, and she literally does this like 5 times where she's like, it's like two minutes away. It's 20 minutes away. You know what? It's actually 2 hours away. And we're like, okay.
Okay, get your story straight, asshole. Oh my god, I would never be able to travel with someone like her. The Blair Witch wouldn't have time to get to her. She would have been dead hours ago. So yeah, Mike gets irritated, rightfully so. I am Mike, and Heather is filming the conversation, and he's like, we're not making a documentary about getting lost. We're making one on a witch. Like, so stop fucking filming me.
Yeah.
Amen.
She does
Preach.
hold the camera a lot for someone who has a camera guy.
Mm-hmm. She's a bossy bitch.
Yeah.
They cross this lake via a tree that is tipped over. Heather's like, we're very close now. I feel it. I just know it. We're super close. They are not. So near a tree, they find 7 piles of rocks. And like Heather's like, ooh, wait, didn't Mary Brown mention something about rocks? Maybe not.
She couldn't like really remember what it was,
yeah.
but it does have some kind of significance. But these rocks are like neatly placed.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
It makes me, so there's this, at my gym, they have these settings. It's like a course setting where you like can tour all these different places, and whatever, who cares? It's not relevant. But I just mention it because in one of the like tours, you go on this like pebble beach, and there are stacks of rocks like this, and I always think of this movie when I see them.
Neatly stacked witchy rocks.
Exactly.
And that night, they're like so obsessed because this is like the first thing that they found. They go back to the rocks to like examine them further with the camera.
Heck's gonna give it to you.
The night vision version.
Yeah, oh, well, and then like one of the rock piles gets knocked over, and Heather's like, whoops, just gonna put that back, but it clearly pissed off some spirits.
Yeah, because they immediately start hearing something kind of like moving around them, and Mike don't play. He don't play around with this. He's like, I don't like this. We need to get going.
Mike is me.
Yeah.
100%.
He doesn't want to even leave the tent, which, why would you?
Right. You know what's safe? The tent. Well, not really, but you know, in theory.
It's the woods.
Exactly. Would you rather be in a tent, or would you rather be in the woods?
Yeah. And what's worse is like Heather is taunting him the whole time. Ooh, they get their comeuppance.
Yeah, because Heather's an asshole. Can't stress that enough.
So the next day they decide that they want to head back to the car because they had enough. They've given up hope on this graveyard cemetery that they're not finding.
Yeah, they just, like, assume at this point, well, it's all a joke and the locals are the ones that are, like, fucking with them.
Yeah.
So they, like...
She does the same thing where she's like, well, we're, like, 2 miles away from the car. Well, we're, like, 20 minutes away from the car. And it's like,
yeah,
the confidence is waning.
Right, because, like, they spent all this time going one direction, and then she was like, no, well, we gotta go back this way. Oh, the shortcut? Well, actually, no, so, like, I know an alternative route. It's like, can't you just admit that you fucked up? Can't you just?
And because they're arguing for so long about, like, the fact that, you know, she doesn't know where she's going. Nobody knows where they're going. They're definitely lost. They end up spending another night where they continue to hear more strange noises, but this time it's more of, like, a tree rocking and then, like, footsteps running around them.
Yeah, and, like, snapping, crackling, like, you know, branches underfoot, shit like that.
Mm-hmm. And then they wake up the next morning to 3 of those neatly piled rocks around them.
Yes.
But at this point, everyone's getting a little irritable. And this is, like, the downfall, I feel, is from this point on. I mean, they were already kind of irritable just to begin with.
Who wouldn't be? Camping sucks.
But it, like, just, it goes south so quickly.
So, like, Heather's, like, super upset because, you know, she's like, oh, well, this is when shit's, like, finally happening and, like, you guys want to leave. But then they discover the map is missing. And Heather asks Josh if he took the map. He says no. He's not playing head games. She's like, seriously, like, do you really, like, I seriously do not have the map. Do you have the map? Stop fucking with me. And Josh, like, fucking blows up. He's like, when we're not home today, people will notice, so someone will come looking for us. And that's kind of like, I feel like that's him, like, talking himself off the ledge because, man, he had blown up on her.
He did. And then they cross that river again. And at this point, it's kind of like he's so mad that he almost goes, like, hysterical. And then Mike is, like, kind of, like, laughing in the distance. And they're like, why the hell are you laughing? And then he confesses that he threw the map in the creek in a fit of rage, knowing that it wasn't helping them because it was really Heather that wasn't helping them because she don't know where she's going. She don't know how to read this map.
Yeah. So
they probably weren't even on the map.
Well, exactly. Like, if you... Okay. So Heather goes ballistic and she's screaming. Not even screaming. She's screeching, which is just... It grates on my ear holes. The whole time she's screeching. And Josh, like, it's super aggressive with her. So, like, I mean, shit is... It's going south.
Really bad.
It's going to hell in a fucking handbasket.
It's the biggest fight.
Yes. So, like, Mike calls out. He's like, there's voodoo shit all over this place, man. Like, come check it out. There's some voodoo shit. And there's all sorts of, like, stick things. Yeah. I don't know. You know the symbol. If you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're, like, strange, like, symbolic runes.
It's like a cross with a diamond behind it, or I don't know.
Yeah, little stick figures. Like,
yeah.
Before we could all draw.
It's like shit you used to make at summer camp with the yarn.
Yeah, and they're all hanging from the trees, and at this point, the guys are like, okay, we need to go. But, like, Heather's, like, filming all of this. Like, she's, like, fascinated, because she's like, well, if we're gonna be lost, I'm gonna keep filming, and they're getting pissed off about this, but they're just like, ugh. Yeah, it's not good. They just, they need to get gone.
So, like, they leave the area with the voodoo stuff. Mike screams for help. They, like, decide, okay, you know what? Like, we're just gonna set up camp. And they agree, in order to stay hidden from whatever or whoever is following them, they are not going to light a fire that night.
They even have the idea that it might be the town yokels.
Yes.
That are, like, fucking with them.
Right. Because they had interviewed so many of them.
Yeah.
And told them they were going to the woods, so, like...
So they might be trying to scare them. So they're like, well, why should we give away our position?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You know, it's a good idea, but that does not work. So the camera comes on. There is there's voices outside of the tent, like, out, you know, near them, around them. And it almost sounds like children. They're very, like, childlike voices. Mm-hmm. And then something starts shaking the tent.
This is when shit gets real.
Yeah. So they take off.
They just, like, run for it.
And then, okay, so like, while they, like, run for it, you hear Heather screams, like, what the fuck is that? I read that, I guess, they were supposed to include an image of the Blair Witch, of the actual witch, and this was supposed to be that point, because the cameraman was supposed to pan over when she says that, but because a lot of the stuff was filmed with no, like, it was just them with handheld cameras, and all the crew, like, the director and everything, they were, like, miles away. They were communicating via walkie-talkie. The guy did not pan over, and so they never got the shot, and they never reshot it.
So they should have, though,
I know.
That would have been spooky.
I know. So, now we've got this version of the movie where we don't get a witch, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, so they end up fleeing, and they huddle in the dark basically all night.
Yeah.
The next morning, they deem it safe to go back to camp, but they find their, like, stuff is scattered, and there's, like this slimy goop all over, like, Josh's stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. It's blue, right?
Yeah, it's, like, funky, and yeah, it's just really weird. And Josh ends up, like, losing his shit and completely, like, attacks Heather for, like, continuing to film this madness. And he's just getting, like, real moody. And yeah, so
but then, like, Heather bites Mike.
Yeah, but I feel
they're just, like, all so, like,
it's like they're descent into madness. Mm-hmm. Which, like, I feel like that's, like, the most accurate thing about this movie, because, like, I get hangry after, like, an hour.
Yeah, true. Oh my god.
So I can't even imagine, like, this is what, day 3 for them?
Right. So, well, I feel like this is probably, like, this sounds like day 5 shenanigans to me. But,
day 3 for me.
Hour 6.
Hour 2 for me of not eating.
Exactly.
Day 5 for them.
This is how I feel after I finish my dinner and I realize there's no food left on my plate. And I'm like, whoa.
And you get hangry.
Yes. Who says I was done with my meal?
You start not trusting anybody else at the meal. I had another biscuit on here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw you take something from my plate.
All trust goes out the window.
Exactly. You don't fuck with somebody and their food.
It's the most accurate thing.
The most dangerous game.
It is.
So,
I don't share.
Josh, God no. Yeah. So Josh says to Heather, because now Josh has the camera, and he's like, I see why you like this camera. It's not quite reality. It's like a filtered version of what's actually happening. So it's like they're starting to get delirious. And I don't know if they, like, view the camera as, like, a power trip or what. But, I mean, it is kind of true. Like,
Yeah.
Seeing things through a lens kind of makes it feel like it's not actually happening to you.
Yeah. He just, like, torments her. Because at this point, she's been so cocky about this whole thing. And he's breaking down. And now she is starting to lose her shit. Like, it's rough.
And on top of that, Josh asks for a cigarette. And nobody has any left. And they had all been, like, smoking a lot before this.
So it's been a real rough journey.
Yes. So they're all out of smokes. Josh is like, what is this blue slime shit all over my stuff? And no one knows. So it's just, like, super weird. And it gets even weirder. They get real patriotic, real American for a second. And they sing, like, My Country 'Tis of Thee, I think, or something. I don't even know. Do they even sing that? I feel like they sing that.
Well, I think they're just so, like, delirious at this point, because then they come across that creek, which they're now recognizing as the same creek that they had passed the previous day. So now that they realize that they're going in circles, they just completely, like, lose their shit.
Yes. Heather's, like, crying because she's like, it's not the same. But, yeah, oh yeah, it's the same.
But it's weird because they're like, we just stuck to going south, and we haven't gone in any other direction, and south is bringing us back to where we were.
Yeah, so, like, they keep going, they pick a direction, and somehow end up in the same spot. So it reminds me, like, of The Forest, where they're going, like, they're following the river down, and then he turns back, and she's like, wait.
And that was what we thought was cool about The Forest, because, like, it was just such a mindfuck, because at that point, you're hungry, you're exhausted, you're dehydrated,
You're lost.
you're turned around because you have no sense of direction.
Yes. So your brain just, like, gives up.
Yeah. And it's funky.
It is.
And it's terrifying.
And I know, like, and that's the funny thing, is my gripe with The Forest was I wish it was more like that. And this movie gives you more of that, but it's so goddamn annoying because I hate the characters in it.
Yeah.
I'm so hard to please.
So the next morning, our boy Josh is missing. And so Heather and Mike, they kind of like wait around for a bit. They're like calling out for him. They had agreed before to not go within earshot or like leave earshot of each other. So they kind of just chalk it up to maybe him needing time to like reflect.
Yeah.
I guess. But they decide to kind of move on. But that night, they end up waking up to like hearing the screams of Josh, but they can't find him because they're in the middle of God knows where, and they can't pinpoint where the screams are coming from.
Yes. So they discuss if that was really Josh that they heard, and in the morning they discover a bundle of sticks in front of their tent, which is bound together with what appears to be pieces of Josh's shirt. And then
Mike's now in the fetal position.
yes, but he says, I found some cigarettes. They were in the bottom of my pack, but that means we're still alive because we're smoking. So at this point, they're so fucking gone that, like, it just kind of feels like limbo at this point.
Yeah.
But yay for them. They got a little, they got a little nicotine in them at least. I love that for them. Heather finds another bundle of sticks with, it's like a piece of Josh's shirt, some hair, some bloody teeth.
And she just freaks the fuck out. She just has a full-on meltdown.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
She goes to the river or the creek and washes her hands off, and it's just kind of like, doesn't tell Mike about it which honestly was the smartest thing she did in this whole movie.
Yeah, she quite literally washed her hands of the situation.
Literally did, because he was already, like I said, in the fetal position, smoking a pack of cigarettes, and this would have probably sent him over the edge.
Yeah. And then we get Heather's famous up-the-nose apology. She's like, I just want to apologize to my mom, to Josh's mom, to Mike's mom. Wrap it up, bitch. Yeah, she basically says, like, everything that happened, it's her fault. She insisted on everything. She insisted they weren't lost, and this is where they've ended up.
And that's the bet on that.
Mm-hmm. Way to be a bitch.
Yeah, it's the most mocked thing ever, I think.
Yes.
But she does say that they're, she's talking about how scared they all are, and, but right after that they cut away and they can hear Josh screaming again. This time they end up following it and they find this, like, dilapidated house.
It's a witch's house.
It's a witch's house.
It's like a witch's house in here, David.
And they're pretty, like, eager to, like, hop on into this place, even though it's not looking so great.
Yeah, I would not.
I'd be like,
yeah, like,
especially in the state of things.
Yes, like, you hear a man in the distance screaming. You come across a fucked up weird house in the middle of goddamn nowhere, and your first thought is, yeah, I'm gonna go in.
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, and so they kind of walk in, and at this point, it's kind of cool because Mike has his own camera, and then Heather has her own, because she brought that smaller camcorder, and he's got the big one. So they're almost, like, kind of filming each other in a way, walking through this house, but they find that there's, like, kind of, like, these symbols on the wall, and they're still trying to, like, follow the voice, so they end up going upstairs. And, like, at the landing of the stairs, there's, like, all these, like, bloody handprints.
Like children's handprints almost. They look
all
very
over
tiny.
the wall. Yeah. And they realize that, well, Mike, he's, like the first to go into these situations, apparently, because he's like, where is his voice coming from? Oh, it must be coming from the basement. So he just, like, bolts ahead of Heather.
And meanwhile, Heather is screaming nonstop. She is screaming the whole time. I wanted to die. I wanted a car to hit her. I wanted to impale her.
A broken wall.
Yes, it was horrible. Like, oh my god. Just grates on my nerves.
So Michael heads to the basement.
Mm-hmm. And while he's, like, heading into the basement, like, I think his camera goes dark, right? Or it drops?
Yeah, so he like walks into the room and just immediately stops, and his camera drops to the floor. And so that's all we see left of him. And then from his view, well, Heather's still screaming hysterically, trying to find him, calling out for him. She ends up going into the basement to catch up with him, and we see the other famous shot, of Mike now propped up against the wall in the corner, like face against the wall.
Yeah.
Just standing there all spooky. And the same thing happens, though. Like, Heather just stops and dead in her tracks, and then her camera falls. And then it's just nothing.
Boo.
Silence. Not even a glimpse of our witch.
That's stupid.
To pick up the camera.
Yeah. It's just... it's a typical, like, found footage ending was where the camera just drops or whatever because, I don't know.
Very quarantine-y.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Or, like, The Devil Inside, or what are some of the other ones? Last Exorcism. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of those. The Pyramid.
Yeah.
But, this is one of the first ones, so...
Yeah,
that's
so
how it goes.
So this is where I give this movie kind of props. Is that it was kind of like the beginning of not found footage per se, but almost like the mock documentary style.
Mockumentary.
Yes. So, then they go on to make movies like Quarantine or Wreck, or more recently Antrim.
Or Drop Dead Gorgeous. Not a horror movie, but you should still see it. It's great. I think that came out did that come out in 97? Or 99? I don't know.
Then that might have been the first.
Yeah, because, oh my god. Because I think, like, Christopher Guest, he did, like, Best in Show. I don't think he did Drop Dead Gorgeous, but it's, like, that mockumentary style. But, yeah, I think this is, like, the first mockumentary. It's not even, I don't even know what it is. I think it's more found footage than mockumentary, but, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, like, at the very early stages of that style.
Yeah. Where it just was, like, kind of taking off, especially. And then, obviously, it got more advanced later on, but yeah, so it was kind of like the beginning of that, but honestly, like, I needed more witch.
Yeah, we needed some witch.
Yeah, that's my biggest gripe, other than, like, the douchiness of these people.
Well, like, I feel like if you're gonna have like a story, or what is not an anthology, like what do you create? The mythology.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a mythology about a witch and then have these people go hunting for it, there were so many stories that the townspeople told. So, like, it's about the witch who disappeared, or that lady who disappeared, and then the old man who was like, I'm finally finished, and they found those dead children. Well, there's children's handprints on the walls, so, like, is it the man? Is it the woman? Are they one and the same?
Mm-hmm. Who's telling the truth?
What is the mythology of this thing? Like, I'm not really sure which story to follow. And then it leads to this house, and for them to not find anything.
Yeah.
And the camera just drops, and then we're looking at the backside of Mike, and we don't even know if that really is Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
because it definitely wasn't Josh.
Right.
They just, like, lured them there.
Yeah. I just don't know.
You know what I just thought of? Like, so I feel like almost an unofficially good sequel to this, or kind of like almost like a take on this, would be The Ritual.
I was thinking that. I'm glad you said that, because I literally was thinking that.
It's like that movie did what this movie didn't. Way later, obviously, because it's more like a newer movie. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Netflix.
And then listen to our review of it.
And listen to our review of it, because we did a whole episode on it. But, like, yeah, like, it's the same thing. The guys go to the woods, but they actually do see shit. And, like, sometimes because they're lost, too, like, they kind of think that they're seeing shit, or, like, they don't know what's real or not. but that was like so well done.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder like if maybe they got some kind of inspiration just from this movie, but they just did more with it, you know?
Right, because it's the same thing. It's the symbols, it's the,
Yeah.
the woods, it's finding that home, it's like all this, but they did it right. Like,
Yeah.
I 100% was thinking that, so I'm so glad you said that out loud. But yeah, this movie, I guess, for being the trailblazer that it is, you have to give credit where credit is due, but that's about where it stops for me.
Yeah. This movie is me getting through the week.
100%.
My slow descent into madness.
Yes, you're super excited to start it. Monday, you're getting the interviews. By Friday, you're like...
by Saturday, I'm stuck up against the wall.
That's right. Camera drops. So...
Oh, God. I know. I
now
need to hear
for the
yours.
ratings.
I need to hear yours first.
Oh,
God. This is going to be the lowest. This is going to be a record, I bet.
I'm going 1.5 out of 4. No, 1.5 out of 5.
1.5 out of 5. Ooh, what was the 0.5 for?
You
90s
know,
bump?
it's not even a 90s bump because I didn't see it until 2013.
Yeah.
It's a 1.5 because it is like
the tipping off point.
Exactly. like I said, it wasn't the first found footage. I would say that's more like the Cannibal Holocaust thing, but I would say it's the film that popularized found footage, and that gave us that led the way for some of my favorite found footage movies, like As Above, So Below. So you have to give credit to the original. I think the ideas were there, but I hated all of the characters. Yes, I hated all of the characters. I hated the execution. I hated the No Witch.
Did you ever see the remake?
No.
I didn't either.
No.
And I don't know if it's good or not, so I guess I can't speak on it. But do you think that this movie could be remade now, but better? I mean, I know we were talking about The Ritual, how it's kind of has the same, like, idea and vibe and done better, but do you think that this movie could be remade now and to be better somehow?
I think they would have a lot of work to do just because in the 90s there was no cell phones, there was no GPS, there wasn't anything like that, where now I think the hard part would be to like navigate around the technology, which we do have movies like that where they come up with reasons why the technology doesn't work, yada yada. Mm-hmm. I think there's a possibility that it could be successful if they remade it. I think they need to have characters that, and and like it's sad because I know a lot of this film was shot by these actors, so it's amateur footage they basically were given like a bare bones script. They were sent out in the woods. They were communicating with their team via walkie-talkies, and they didn't know. Like, they basically just were told, like, you need to walk to this destination, and they didn't know. Like, so when they keep going to that same tree, a lot of those reactions were real. They were never told they were going in circles. Or,
and that's what's cool about it, is the fact that they were actually getting irritable. Like, they weren't... I did read that they weren't really, like, feeding them a whole lot to get the reaction out of them of being like pissy and hungry and all that. And a lot of times they like the noises that they were hearing outside of the tent was the crew, but they did not tell them that it was them. So like they were really trying to like scare them and get them irritable, and like, and I love that. Yeah. So that's what it's the one. Yes, that's why it's the 1.5 out of 5 for me. Yes. What is your score? So I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, but just for the same reasons but just a little bit higher, of it being like kind of like a jumping off point, it being this like iconic movie, whether you love it or hate it, like it did something for a genre, genre, and 90s bump for sure. For sure. But yeah, like we were just saying, like like that amateur style made it feel real. I mean, the fact that people were getting sick watching it, I just feel like that is what found footage is. Like, it's meant to be like messy, and I wish that there had been more, because especially because they spend so much time in the beginning talking about this like legendary or mythological witch, but we don't get to see her or anything. You know, we get our few scares, but and I was kind of, I've talked about this movie with people before where they say, like, it's not really about, like, it is about the witch, but it's more so supposed to be about their, like, descent into madness, which I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I mean, I think they did a good job with their, like, as annoying as they were, but they did a good job with their descent into madness.
Yeah.
They're just, like, you know, they start the movie off in good spirits, and they're all friendly, and then when things go south, it just gets, like, worse and worse and worse, to the point where, like, they don't even know if what they're seeing is real or hearing.
Well, I'll tell you what, just Heather alone gave me a descent into madness.
Her voice.
Yeah, so job well done there.
Yeah.
That's the Blair Witch. All right, so now that you've heard our rantings and ravings about this movie, I would love if you headed on over to our social media to tell us your thoughts on
your
this.
Rantings and ravings.
Yes, this classic movie. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What are your memories of it? If you're a 90s baby, do you remember anything about the hype that was created around it?
Where were you when this movie came out?
Exactly. I am curious. So you can head on over to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fright Mike Podcast. And don't forget to check out, we are on Patreon. So if you wanted to head over there for a monthly pledge, we do offer lots of bonus content. Last month was our anthology month, so we do have actually a bonus episode up for you for Patreons on a special anthology movie that came out last year. So if you're curious as to what it is and our review on it,
head on over.
Yes. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I don't. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I'm Sam.
I'm Liz.
Rest in peace.